Hi, everybody, and welcome to this webinar on Bulgaria. It's something I've called Europe's Production Secret. And welcome to you from wherever you are around the world on the MCA network. If you are there and listening and seeing me, maybe you could just take a look at the chat room, which is on the right-hand side of your screen, and just let us know where you are joining us from on the network, please. So just put it in your chat room. Write your message in, say, hi, I'm so-and-so, and I'm from wherever it is, whichever location you are in the world. So hi, and we'll carry on with this. So we've got David in London and Alec and Debbie. We've got Ian in wonderful Ealing. Hi to Ian. And I do know that we've got a number of clients joining us today. Michael in Switzerland. Hi, Jonathan in Cornwall, and George as well. We've got Celia in Shanghai. So yes, lots of people joining us from all around the globe to learn about the merits of Bulgaria. So look, how did this come about? We've been doing productions in low-cost centers, obviously, for a very long time. And one of the things that kept on cropping up was that we were doing things in places like Romania and in Ukraine, and Bulgaria was always on that list. But there were always many, many questions about the capabilities of the local services in the market. So I thought the real true way to find out about whether it was good enough was to go and see it for myself. And so a few weeks ago, as you know, I jumped on a plane, and I know you will think I went on a bit of a jolly. Well, partly it was, but most of all, over the 48-hour period, I managed to find and glue quite a lot of information that I think is going to prove very useful for you in the next hour or so. So rather than you seeing my ugly mug, I'm going to switch you over to my PowerPoint, and I'm just going to ramble through. So look, what we've got to do here is do this in the next 45 minutes. I'm going to leave enough time for Q&A because we've got two specially invited guests on the session today. One is Mark Rossiter, who is our MCA specialist on Bulgaria, and also Emil, who I know is definitely on the line, who works for Icon Production. So those two guys will be able to answer any questions that you have that I won't have been able to answer through the next 45 minutes or so. I've also got a whole ton of other stuff that I'm not going to share with you in the next hour or so. It's too much to go through. Bundles of things around talent and around locations, around equipment, that kind of stuff, which, if you contact me at the end of the session, I can share with you, so you can have that in your computer if ever you need to kind of do a job in Bulgaria, or you need to refer back to it when you're doing some research. Okay, so let me switch over to my PowerPoint now, and just bear with me. I just need to get my PowerPoint presentation up. Hang on a second. Here we go. Okay. Right, okay. For some reason, that's not working. Let me just try one more thing. I can bring it up as a PDF, so just as long as you can keep hearing me or seeing me, that's the most important thing. So let's try that again. Okay. For some reason, it's not showing my PowerPoint presentation, so just bear with me, guys, and I will get this working in just 1 second. There's always technology problems. Now we've got it. Oh, no, we don't. Okay, well, I'm going to see if I can do this. I'm going to share the whole screen. Okay. I'm assuming that you can see that. So let's go into the full screen. Okay, there we go. Bulgaria, secret. Okay, so what are we going to cover over the next 45 minutes? I'll just talk a little bit about our production index, which some of you know about, but some of you also don't know about. And this is kind of how this came about anyway in the first place. Then also just tell you a little bit about the people I met on the ground while I was there over 2 days. Then ask the question, why Bulgaria? We'll go through the language, the money, and the travel and the summary as well. So quite a lot to cover in the next 45 minutes or so. So on our production index findings, what was very evident, but this does go back about a year or two ago. So when we did some research around production centers around the globe, it was completely nonsensical of us to do benchmarks using one script against a different script. So what we did was we took one scope of work, which we then budgeted in around 60 places around the world. So we were very specific about the type of scope of work and the equipment and everything that needed to be done. And that was the only way that we could get a proper benchmark comparing apples with apples. In all of the different markets. Now, that didn't take into consideration any fluctuations of currency, so that does make a difference. And of course, since then, the GBP has made a dive somewhat. But, in the end of the day, these movements of places within our chart weren't dramatic. So anyway, the centers that came out always as most competitive in Europe and Eastern Europe were mainly Ukraine, Romania, and Bulgaria. And in particular, the two, Romania and Bulgaria, were competing very much as the cheapest, not only just the cheapest, but the best places to shoot from a quality perspective. And what we also found was the Ukraine, was not regarded by a lot of agencies and clients as a place they really wanted to go to. From a safety perspective and things like insurance and stuff. So really you're only left with those other two, which is Romania and Bulgaria, right next door to each other. And they have different elements of things that you'll find that are good and bad, right? So, and Bulgaria more or less has taken a backseat from Romania in the past, but I don't think that's particularly fair. And as I said, there's been questions remaining about the creative capabilities, and certainly even within our own team, when they've suggested Bulgaria as a place to go and shoot to agencies and clients, the agencies would say, well, I'm not sure if I can get the right talent there, or I'm not sure if they've got the right production designers, or, so from a creative perspective, it was always a question mark. And, I found out for myself that's really not the case. So let's move on. People I met over 2 days, quite a lot of people, and thanks to Emil and Mark for setting a lot of this up while I was there. So I went to the incredible New Bojana studios, met the studio manager there, and we had a tour around the whole place during the day. I mean, I could have spent literally days there. It's like a kid in a candy store. And there's lots of things I didn't see, which I'd still like. But we had a chance to look at the costume department. We looked at the garage where they had fleets of vehicles. We saw the very nice costume manager, as you'll see in a few slides from here, photographs of me dressed up. And so we managed to take a look at pretty much most of the things at New Bojana Studios, including their post-production department. So, and you'll probably not be aware that many, many American movies get made there, plus the visual effects are done on site. So, for instance, and we'll come on to it in a little while, great films are shot in Bulgaria. A lot of great Hollywood movie stars shoot there a lot. So we'll come on to that a little bit later. We met a really nice production designer called Antonello, and I talked to him about the quality and types of construction builds you could do. While I was there, they were building a French chateau inside one of the studios, and the quality of the work, I could tell just by looking at it, it was really superb. And once you know what the costs of these things are, then you suddenly realize the opportunity it provides when you're going there to make an ad. The scale of something that you could actually build really competitively is amazing. We then went to visit, and this is kind of not, wouldn't normally be the case, because normally when agencies and clients go to Bulgaria or other low-cost centers, they don't look into the other areas of production. They only kind of talk to service companies or production companies locally. But it was important for me to understand stuff like what was post-production like, for instance, music and audio and VFX. And we went to visit Fifth Degree, which is a video post-production company. And they've got all the same equipment that you might find at the mill or frame store or MPC, and good talent as well, and work with a lot of similar clients as well. And when you understand what the difference in costs are between Bulgaria and elsewhere, then you suddenly realize what is achievable. Also, the camera department that we met, the very nice English chap who was running the camera department at New Bojana, it was evident to me that you could get really anything, any form of camera kit, except for maybe a Russian arm, which was something they didn't have. But I'm sure that might be something you could source if needed, if it was done in advance. We also met a director, and we talked to Valery Milev about what it's like to be a director on the ground in Bulgaria, and things are tough. Let's be honest. He found it quite hard, and particularly to attract work coming into Bulgaria. So a lot of the work that comes in from outside brings their own directing talent or brings their own production company or production resources. So it was interesting to talk to him. So why Bulgaria? So I'm going to walk you through, and probably the best way to do this is to show you visually some of the things that I saw over the couple of days. So I'm going to show you some pictures of the studios, the set design and construction, some of the standing sets that you might find locally there. Also, the incredible wardrobe department that was at New Bojana. Now, I know there are other studios there in Sofia, and I only had the chance to go to New Bojana, but it was amazing, this wardrobe department. I'll walk you through literally just a couple of things that you can get in the way of casting. And as I said, we've got a mood board that Emil has helped me put together with regard to the range of cast that you might be able to find on the ground in Bulgaria. Also, some of the incredible locations that are available in Bulgaria, post-production and music. Again, recording music in Bulgaria, if you wanted the Bulgarian Philharmonic or symphony orchestras, full-on 64-piece, you can get that at an amazing price. And it makes no sense for you to record that kind of thing anywhere else, to be honest. So why Bulgaria? They've got a good history of filmmaking, over 50 years worth of filmmaking in Bulgaria. There's very much an internationally respected team of, when I say English-speaking professionals, they are obviously local Bulgarians, but what is something that I was amazed about was everyone spoke really good English in general, so you could get by. And a lot of the people who work in film crews there speak pretty good English, partly because they have to work with incoming film companies from elsewhere in the world, in particular from Los Angeles. And they're all highly skilled in every aspect of the filmmaking process. Amazing locations, incredible production design, set building. It's amazing the value that you can get. So let's walk you through some of the studios facilities. So, as I said, went to New Bojana. As you can see here, it's a big place. It was huge. And what a great backdrop that you can see there of the mountains behind the studios. I've been to many studios in my time. I've been to Shepperton, I've been to Elstree, and all the big studios in London and in Los Angeles. And this compared very favorably to any of the studios I've been to. And supposedly this is the biggest film studios in Europe and Eastern Europe. And you can see that the yellow building there at the bottom middle, that is the wardrobe department, right? And I gather there was more than that one building. So I think there was 2 or 3 buildings. That's the wardrobe department. And you can see the corridors as well. And walking through the corridor, a lot of production studios being set up for movies at that time. So crewing, there's an amount of really talented crew there. They're obviously developing a lot of young people as well, bringing them through the ranks, and a lot of freelancers there. And this is, I'm not going to dwell on this, but this kind of gives you an idea of the kinds of stuff they can do, including things like prosthetics and model making. And I saw a lot of the prosthetics that they were doing while I was there. And the model making is just incredible what they are able to provide. When you see some of the photographs as well, some of the builds, some of the standing sets, you'll be amazed. And just down at the bottom there, it just gives you an idea of what a typical shooting day is for crewing. The fact that there's no kind of differential in rates between shooting Monday through Friday or weekends or days and nights and stuff. So hopefully that's quite useful for you. So on to set design and construction. You can see my lovely mug down on the bottom left there with Antonello. But you can see they were building this French chateau in here. And this is second, right? They were building not only this set, but they were building loads of these while I was at the studios. In each of the different studios, there was a lot of building going on. And the quality of that work was incredible. Standing sets. I was wondering if I can tell me where this is from. When I looked at it, and it's incredible detail. But when you kind of get up and you tap it, it's not real. This is the monument or the statue that's at just in front of St. Paul's Cathedral. And a lot of what you can see there is actually painted on. And St. Paul, they actually have a full-size St. Paul's Cathedral on the back lot of New Boyana, and as you'll see in a second. So they have great street scenes of New York, including the vehicles. So you see a police car there and a taxi, and in the garage, which I don't have any pictures of, I have literally fleets of vehicles from each different decade, and you can go in there and you kind of pick the vehicles that you want. And there's a standing set of Rome here as well. I mean, literally, we walked around from literally corner to corner at New Boyana, seeing these different. And this is the final one here, but you can see, look, top left-hand sort of corner. There is a New York Metro station, 14th Street station. You actually prop that with vehicles and things, and it'll look like the real deal. Then you've got a second shot there. You've got a shot of is that an Old English pub? I think I can see there. Then various sets from Rome. You've got the bottom middle, which is, I know it's St. Paul's Cathedral without the dome. But this was used in the movie London Has Fallen, if you've seen that. So a lot of those scenes were actually shot in Bulgaria and not actually shot in London. And then all of the post-production visual effects were actually done literally on site at New Boyana as well. And we went to talk to the VFX guys there, and they have hundreds and hundreds of VFX guys working in their team doing this stuff. At a fraction of the price. So when I asked him, I said, well, what do you cost for a day? He said it's 300 euros a day. So that's amazing. And then more standing sets. You can see that we've got some sets. The one on the top left-hand corner is a Middle Eastern set, and you've got another set here, which is cowboy and Indian set, kind of a Wild West set. So you can see the sheriff's department down the bottom left. And the middle bottom one is of a typical kind of American house as well. So you've got American houses, which they've built specifically on the back lot. And there's some more to see in a minute. And they have more of Rome there. The wardrobe and costume department. Well, what can I say about this place? I mean, literally, there were miles and miles of uniforms and stuff that you'd find from any kind of era or any type of decade. If you wanted some flower power stuff from the 60s, if you wanted to do as you can see, obviously you've got a uniform here from the 1940s from German uniforms. But they've got Russian uniforms, they've got British uniforms, they've got helmets, they've got absolutely everything you could possibly wish for. And that nice lady, whose name I can never remember, down the bottom, she is the lady that runs the costume department. And If there's something that you need, they haven't got it, they'll make it for you. And believe me, the cost is extremely competitive. Moving on to casting, and this is one of the big that I kept on encountering when I was talking to people about shooting in Bulgaria. And it still is, I suppose. It's an issue where whenever you shoot abroad, if you're shooting away from your main shoot center, particularly if you need to have dialogue, there's always going to be a limited amount of people you can find where you go to give you the right kind of dialogue and performances that you need. If it's a look that you need, the great thing about shooting in Bulgaria is if you want somebody in the UK or out of London, you just go and cast them in London and take them with you, because it's so cost effective to put them on a plane and put them up in a hotel there. You might as well take the main key people that you need. But if you need to fill it out with other people that have a good Western look, then this is just a cross section of looks that I've kind of put together from our mood selection board, which I can share with you. You've got kids, Caucasian-looking kids who look as though they might be from the US or the UK or from Germany. A load of models in Bulgaria, and characters as well. Great character-looking faces. And the bottom, I put some there. They've got some interesting dancers and different types of talent and non-professional talent as well. So normal actors. So this gives you a pretty good idea, I think, of the kind of mix that you might be able to get locally in Bulgaria. I suppose, to me, it was obvious that there was a lack of certain ethnicities. And, you might be able to bring those in from somewhere else out of Romania, or bring them with you from wherever you come from. So there was certainly mainly a Caucasian kind of melting pot of talent that was available in Bulgaria. And obviously, when we come to the end of this session, you'll be able to talk to Emil and to Mark about any further questions you might have around casting. Locations. I never really thought of Bulgaria as a place that I really want to go and visit, right? Except for Mark Rossiter, of course, who, when I was working with him in New York a number of years ago, he was doing Skype lessons in Bulgarian. Mark, why are you learning Bulgarian? He said, well, I want to go and live in Bulgaria. It's a fantastic place. And not only did he end up living there, but he got married to a beautiful Bulgarian lady. So he's kind of lived his dream. But I've since discovered that Bulgaria has this incredible range of wonderful locations, which hopefully I can share with you some of the photographs of in just a few seconds. And look at this. This is an amazing picture. And they've got incredible old buildings and new buildings as well. So this is some of the old buildings of the World Heritage Rila Monastery, which was constructed in the 10th century. And then these are some of the location highlights that you might want to consider. There's hotline, there's treasure amongst the many Black Sea wrecks. You can find nature reserves, there's cobblestone streets. Obviously, Bulgaria is famous for its rose oil, some of which I brought back with me. They've got some terrific ski resorts. And obviously wine is a big thing in Bulgaria as well. And just to give you an idea on some of these amazing scenes that you can create, look at that. I know you didn't want me to mention Sunny Beach, Mark, but obviously beaches are something that everyone knows Bulgaria for. So beaches certainly shouldn't be discounted from your search when you're doing a commercial or something needing a beach. So you've got amazing other scenes here, mountainous scenes, forestry scenes, rocky scenes, anything you want. And then you get on to some of the architecture. You've got the old art. Really interesting. You take a look at the top right-hand corner. That looks to me like a house in America, right? It just does. And then bottom left, obviously more contemporary. That one in the bottom middle could be somewhere in France or somewhere else in Western Europe. And then something slightly more modern down on the bottom right-hand side there too. Let's talk a little bit about there are definitely four well-defined seasons. What they've called white, snowy winter, fresh and blossomy spring, warm, sunny summer, and a rainy, golden-leafed autumn. Um, so when it comes to temperatures, it can get a bit chilly, obviously during the winter time, so 0 to 5 Celsius in the winter, but right through to 25 to 35 in the summer months. So it's a terrific place to shoot in the kind of from April through to September time. You're likely to have pretty good weather most of the time, so won't upset your insurance brokers too much. And it's a great place when it comes to weather. On post production, as I mentioned, we went to visit Fifth Degree, which is one of the local top post houses. They have all the same equipment, right? They have your Avids, they have your Flames, they have all the same kit that you're familiar with wherever you are in the world, and really good talent. And these guys can do the same kind of work that you're used to, unless it's something probably very specialized. Right? I mean, if it's really high end, then maybe this is not necessarily a way to kind of move your post production away from London or from New York or whatever, but it's an option, and there's no reason why we shouldn't explore this kind of thing. I put this thing in the middle here because it's interesting to understand that, one of Bulgaria's really interesting high-tech companies won an Oscar for developing what is called a V-Ray software. Now, don't talk to me or ask me any question about V-Ray software. Maybe Emil can answer that question for you, but they won that Oscar for a technical achievement, and must be earlier this year, 2017. As I mentioned, we went to take a look at the VFX and post-production department at New Bojano. And as I said, all the VFX for Olympus Has Fallen and London's Fallen were done on site. And not only those two, I just picked those two because they're ones that you guys might be aware of. And, when I looked at that movie, I'd seen that movie before I went to see the studios. So, and I thought the VFX were pretty damn good, to be honest, And they also have great viewing facilities. They have great sound studio facilities, all at New Bojana. Now, the one question, I suppose, is, are they used to working on TV ads or in content? Well, yeah, let's ask the same question to Mark and Emil when we get to the end of the session. It is sophisticated and well produced. And, we wouldn't immediately think of doing music in Bulgaria. But we met with a music composer called Nikolai, really nice chap, who was kind of well known in the Bulgarian music scene, supposedly in the Bulgarian charts at that point in time, a few weeks ago. And also very incredibly flexible, so could do a kind of electronica through to classical, and clearly well known. So he, when I was looking at the Bulgarian kind of music scene, I thought, well, the one way to understand, what is the kind of trends going on in Bulgaria now is to go and look at the Bulgaria Shazam charts, what people actually wanting to know about. And it's clear that they like Western style music, like Katy Perry and Rihanna and Ed Sheeran. And so I'm guessing that is reflected in the kind of music that is created by any local music composers as well. What is interesting is that Bulgaria has this wonderful history of classical music and two great classical orchestras, Philharmonic and Symphony orchestras, both of which I believe are available for recording purposes. So, we talked to Nikolai and we said to him, hey, Nikolai, if we wanted to work with a 64-piece orchestra, could you compose something, record it, production costs, everything all up to client? What would it cost us? And then you hand us not only hand us the track, but hand us the ownership or the IP of this, so the client can have the ownership of the music. And I said, what would that cost us? He said, about €8,000 probably. So, which was amazing. It is amazing what you can get for your money. Talk about language. English it's clearly something that a lot of people speak in Bulgaria. And I was surprised because, it's something when you go to France or you go to other markets in Western Europe, they don't speak to you in English, but you go to Bulgaria and literally as soon as you walk off that airplane, you can talk to somebody in English, and it seems to be the most widely spoken foreign language. I guess partly because of tourism, because that's a main part of the income. And I would have thought that Russian and German would have been more popular, but that isn't the case. So when asked which two languages other than Bulgarian would be the most useful for children to learn, the overwhelming majority said English, 90% said English. So English seems to be the most popular second language, which is very useful if you're going there for filming commercials. Costs are as much as 30% lower than other parts in Central Europe, and even lower than that, than Western European nations like UK, US, and Canada. They say there's a guaranteed local VAT refund and a fixed 10% flat rate for personal and corporate income tax. So, but according to our production index, and that's really where I'd like to kind of refer always back to, we can see that most costs are about 70% less. So 70% less than our baseline, which was the US. And so 70% less than the US of local costs compared to, well, actually the UK and US. So I've put UK here, but it's pretty much the same. The currency is the Bulgarian lev, even though Bulgaria is part of the EU, so they've kind of done a UK and they haven't kind of joined the monetary system yet. And interestingly, and I know, Mark, you don't want me to mention it, but I'm going to mention it anyway. If you were reading The Guardian week before last, Bulgaria is regarded as the most attractive place financially in Europe for UK travelers to go to right now. The second one was the Algarve, where I've just been to. So, you can click on that link when I send it to you, and you'll see that it gives you an idea of the cost differential for some things. So a bottle of beer in Bulgaria could cost you as low as 70 pence, a meal for two, including wine, for 20 quid. So pretty good value. And again, we're just coming on to travel costs as well in just a second. Traveling there as well is very competitive. So even if you wanted to take people and a crew and you wanted to take talent with you, things are relatively inexpensive. And even though we have a reduced rate on our GBP currency, it's still 22% lower than it was 5 years ago, despite that low GBP right now, which is incredible. And I think they've gone out of their way to make it competitive for people to come in and do the work there. On travel, lots of airlines go there, particularly from the UK. And I know if you're in other places around the world, this is not or slightly less relevant to you guys. So this travel is mainly out of London, Heathrow. So Ryanair goes there, EasyJet goes there, British Airways goes there, Bulgaria goes there, all out of London. And the typical cost for a return flight on a low-cost carrier is around £65 to £150. So 65 is more the kind of EasyJet, Ryanair. I guess that £150 is more for British Airways. Certainly I flew there at a very low rate. And, hotels in Sofia, 4 and 5 star hotels are really inexpensive. And, you can get them even if you didn't go through your own travel agent, even if you go onto one of these cheap online sites, you can still get them. I mean, I use ebookers.com, and there are other places. There's booking.com and other online sites you can look at as well. But £70 to £120 a night for a 4 or 5 star hotel, and sometimes even less than that, I'd say, depending on whether they've got availability. In summary, then, before we move on to our Q&A, Bulgaria is a great low-cost center of production excellence. It really is. Set building is great value. If you want scale, then, it's just there. You can have a great team of people who can build whatever it is that you need. And if there is ongoing work, maybe you can kind of build something and leave it there. Because it's so cost effective just to have it built and made for you. So if you were shooting something like a Reckitt Benckiser commercial in a kitchen, you could make those flats and have them and set them up each time that you want to kind of go there. Costumes can be made for little investment. If you want a specific interior, more, as you can see from those locations that I've showed you, they've pretty much got everything that you might want to look at. But if you can't build it, they can obviously find it, right? And likewise the other way around. If you can't find it, you can build it. In general, most stuff, and of course, other things like prosthetics and model making and that kind of stuff is also really good. Plenty of standing sets. So if you want a London scene, maybe you want to do a shoot where it's a combination of different locations around the world. So maybe instead of going to New York, instead of going to London, instead of going to the Far East, into the Middle East, with different kind of camera crews, you could shoot it all in one place. They've got all these plenty of standing sets. Okay, so it's worth thinking about. Great locations. Talent is definitely in abundance. No matter what agencies tell you, it is there. But specific talent and dialogue, is probably limited. And in particular, certain ethnicities. But just bring them in. You can do your casting in London and bring them in. All the equipment and cameras are available, except, as I said, for the Russian arm. Excellent for local post-production facilities, good local crews who all speak English. And according to our benchmarks, it's the cheapest in Europe and Eastern Europe. Okay, so along with Romania, obviously Romania is quite popular, but I believe Bulgaria is even some more slightly competitive price-wise. Plus, look at the incredible stuff that you can get here. It is amazing. The one thing that we haven't talked about: local production companies and service companies. So all I've done really is to provide you with an overview of Bulgaria as a place to shoot. Right? Is this a great place to go to? I haven't given you a list of the production companies and service companies. Best person to speak to, if you need that, is Mark Rossiter. He'll be able to give you the lowdown on that. So what I'm going to do now, guys, is I'm going to see if I can bring in Mark and Emil onto my call. Hang on, I can just invite him in this way, I think. That's Mark. And also, let's find Emil. Right. So hopefully, guys, I've sent you a couple of invites to join me as a speaker, both Mark and Emil. When you get that invite, if you can just accept that, and then you can kind of join me on the screen. So I'm going to go, while I'm waiting, I'm just going to see who else is on there. Hi to Dan in Chicago, Kate in Spain, hi, Layla, hi guys, Adrian in Brussels, Ignacio out in Panama, and who else? We got George, as I mentioned George before. Silke is there in Germany. Hopefully you can hear me. You're going to join me, Emil or Mark. Maybe if you can just type a message down in the chat room. Just tell me whether you've received your invite. That would be great. Just tell me whether you've received your invite. And Layla, we've got Layla in Stockholm as well. Thanks, guys, for joining us today. I hope you really liked some of the pictures that I've shared with you. It's amazing. I mean, those pictures of the backlot, and that really doesn't do it justice at all. It really doesn't. When you go there, you're kind of amazed. I mean, literally amazed, because what you're looking at is you're kind of being transported from, one place to another, literally in a matter of seconds. And I felt like I was really in. Here we got Emil. Emil's joined the room. You got a video, Emil? He'll join us in a second. There he is. There's the man. Do we have any audio? Can we hear you? I can't hear you.
Phone on.
Okay.
Maybe you can hear me now.
Gotcha. Fantastic. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw it out to the team. I hope you enjoyed that session. It was 45, and we've got 15 minutes to kill right now. And I really appreciate you joining us. We have people from all around the world on the MCA network, plus some clients joining us, Emil. So be nice, and hopefully we'll have some really interesting questions. I do have a couple of questions to kick off, if I may. The first one is with regard to sourcing of directors. Okay, so of course it's very competitive to come and shoot in Bulgaria. We know that, right? We know that the costs in Bulgaria are great. How easy is it for you or production companies in Bulgaria to source great talent, directing talent from elsewhere in the world? Should a client or an agency choose to come and work with you directly without a production company where they are from?
Well, first of all, Pat, thank you very much for that great presentation and the nice words you said about Bulgaria. And your stay here was an amazing adventure. And if I can answer your question, yes, it's to be honest, on some of the projects, really we can outsource local directors. Maybe not the biggest one, but for sure for small and middle-level projects, we have a good bunch of guys here who have gained huge experience with local brands, which actually local brands are now also international brands, because you know how global became the whole world. And like all the brands you have, let's say in UK, we have the same here, just the different regions. So we work. We're all one big family where we work, and they're very well experienced with the recent projects they've done.
Fantastic. So the question I was referring to is, is it easy to, obviously local talent, we know that you've got some good talent locally who can definitely deliver on a lot of the basic kind of work, I'd suggest. But what would be really interesting is to get really kind of A/B list directors from elsewhere in the world to work directly with you. Is that possible?
Oh, absolutely, of course. You mean from elsewhere around the world? You mean like?
Yeah.
Of course, that is always an option. We work with different agencies, and we can also deliver good directors.
Fantastic. And from what you've seen, obviously I've shown quite a lot of. I've tried to kind of condense a lot of what you shared with me down to 45 minutes, but there's a whole load of stuff that I've unfortunately had to miss out because we just didn't have time. But what would be really interesting to understand is, what are the challenges that you face when you're working with companies outside, when you're working with production companies and agencies in the UK or the US, when it comes to perception?
I'm sorry, but could you repeat? I'm sorry, the connection was somehow lost. When it
comes to the perception of Bulgaria by agencies and production companies outside, what tend to be the main things that people get worried about from your perspective that really are not well founded?
Well, as you very well mentioned, to be honest, the more time is passing, like I see a huge trust in all the foreign production companies and agents that come to shoot their projects here in Bulgaria. And as you mentioned in the presentation, normally we have, let's say, we have some issues with talents, local talents, which normally, of course, with the typical, let's say, UK accent, or depends where the product comes from. But we're very close to any of, like, Europe, after all, is not such a big place. In a couple of hours, we can fly in an actor from, let's say, London. We can easily cast all the talents in London, or even closer, in around here. We have Romania, We have Greece. I mean, we in the region here of Eastern Europe work very close one with each other. Very often we send, let's say, talents, not only talents, equipment, crew specialists. For example, if there's a busy period in, let's say, Romania, we send people from Bulgaria to Romania, and the other way around. If we need some professionals from for certain positions, let's say production designers, or we have some talent issues, we bring in from around.
Yeah, you were telling me, Emil, that when I was with you, you said, "Oh, if I need somebody, I can just send a cab to Romania, and within 2 hours, I can have somebody, a talent or a member of crew that I need."
Absolutely. And I can send, a car. That's what we even do. Like, for example, if we missing a lens, some specific lens that DOP needs, I just send the car in, and let's say 10 hours the equipment is here, or some special requirements of directors, DOPs.
Great. I've got There's a question here from Jonathan on the chat room. He said, can you tell us a few examples of ads that have been made in Bulgaria? Some of my clients have worked there. We've worked there with Weetabix and for Cadbury's. And just for everybody to know that the deck that I've provided, by the way, we'll provide you with a copy of the deck. But at the end of the deck, there's an appendices. And in the appendices is a list of all of those ads. With links. So, guys, we've got plenty of references to great ads, but it's in the appendices. I didn't want to run ads through this particular session. All right. So, Jonathan, you'll have that at the end when I provide you with the deck. So, some more questions I wanted to ask you, Emil, just while you're on the line. Do you see that there's any kind of do you see that there's any limitations around things like equipment or with regard to creative capabilities? Because from my very quick observation and my very quick exposure in 48 hours, it seemed like you had pretty much everything covered. Is there anything from your perspective that you wish you had more of?
Of course, as you mentioned, we wish we had the Russian arm, for example, but we're working in that direction. And actually, in terms of equipment, that's the only piece of equipment we don't have. We have excellent drone guys which are updating their equipment with high technology, which already can bring latest cameras with not only some ultra prime lenses which are light now, they can bring even the heavier master prime lenses and with much longer flights. We're also working have equipment because we're trying to substitute, of course, the Russian arm, for example, and we have some small arms and cranes with stabilized heads which we attach on trucking vehicles. In terms of cameras, we fully covered. In terms of lenses, we're fully covered also with anamorphic lenses. We also have two possibility of motion controls. So one of which is the Moko brothers. It's the boat, motion control. Full storages of lights, grip, techno cranes, Scorpio techno cranes, movie birds. And best thing about the studios, because of the increasing interest in Bulgaria, I'm not surprised more and more production companies would like to come and shoot in Bulgaria. The studios are investing a lot, and every, let's say, 5-6 months, they're buying new equipment just to fill in the missing parts, like the LED panels, which are so everybody wants to shoot now with LED panels, and all the needed equipment.
You mentioned another thing. You mentioned with drones, and that would normally come along with a lot of red tape, a lot of bureaucracy. So if you were shooting in the UK, you'd have to get all sorts of permissions and stuff to do that. What kind of bureaucracy do you have in Bulgaria for not only shooting with drones, but for patients?
Luckily, we still have the opportunity to shoot free with drones, no matter if we're in the city or elsewhere, as long as the area is controlled area. I mean, the place where we're shooting, just to get to have it all its permits in terms of permissions to shoot. So the procedure is really simple. We just in a week time we get permit for the local. Sorry, what was the name of local authorities? Flight controls. We just advise them that on the specific day there will be a drone flying in such a parameter. On the day of shoot, we just advise them for the time fly out. We take off, land it with the drone, and that's it. It's as simple as this. Just a piece of letter. Right. We get the permission. Something else I wanted to mention,
so
which
could be... Is that about relationships, or is it just a very straightforward procedure? Because, you know...
No.
Yep.
This is a very straightforward procedure. Absolutely. It's an official letter. We send it. And it's just more to inform the authorities that in this parameter there will be a flying object. Nothing much than that.
Great stuff. I've got a couple more questions from the chat room here. So we've got Jane in London, and she's asking what the local insurance rates are for production there.
This is one thing which actually probably this is one of the disadvantages here. But let's say we're still working on that and we're trying to develop it. There is only probably one insurance company which is providing a full range of insurance policies for all our needs. Normally what how we work is when a foreign production company comes to do a project in Bulgaria, we use their insurance policy from outside, done from outside. Lately we're trying to do some local, but for smaller projects.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and one makes the assumption that if a client has an insurance wrap, then that works fine with you guys too, yeah?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
If the client has an insurance wrap, so they take on the production insurance as part of one of the things that they've bought globally or regionally themselves with their own insurance broker, then that's fine working with you. Yeah?
Yes. Now, something else about what I want to mention about insurance. Actually, what we provide locally here is all the equipment which we're using locally, which is most cases 99%, or let's say 100%, it's insured locally, and that's insured by the rental house. Production company, local production companies, they insure all the local crew, and that is even for third parties. Local third parties. So the only insurance which is required in this case is for the foreign crew arriving, foreign talents which are coming. And what we normally do is make, for example, we bring in from outside equipment, we insure that equipment separately from the general insurance policy. Or the same thing is from props, for example, or any other props we need for the project.
Tell us a little bit about some of the current interesting projects or going on there from a film perspective. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff that comes in free, right? A lot of Hollywood movies come to shoot there, and it seems like Hollywood has found Bulgaria advertising industry. Not an unusual thing because I think the advertising industry is quite conservative. What are some of the interesting things that are happening there right now?
Right now, there is a few movies in preparation. Even one is in a course of shooting. It's with Nicolas Cage. But I don't know if you mentioned, but we have a very long list of all the actors and big names that have been, which is like almost almost every big actor that has been in Bulgaria, and all of them, they leave the country
with a good experience.
With a good experience, nice impression. Yeah.
So anyway, look, just so you can see, which you guys will get, you'll see not only the links to all of your the commercials, but we've also got the celebs who've shot in Bulgaria. We've also got all the movies that were made in 2015, 2016 as well. So these are all the things that come as part of the pack, plus the mood boards, which you kindly helped, Emil. So thank you very much for that. And I really appreciate your time today. So thanks for joining us. And I know that everybody on our network, on the MCA network, and then some of our clients too, really appreciate you kind of shedding a little bit of more light. Obviously, I've been through it. It's much better to hear it from someone on the ground, someone who works in the local scene, from the horse's mouth, so to speak. So I really appreciate this, and thanks so much for your time, not only today, but also thanks for your time when I came to see you a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, thank you very much, Pat. The pleasure was mine, and again, it was a really nice presentation about Bulgaria. I'm really glad about it.
Thank you. I will send you a copy.
Thank
right,
you.
I'm gonna go back to my deck right now because I only have 2 more slides to show you, if I may. Just okay. So thanks, Emil. Unfortunately, Mark had a few technical problems his end, so was unable to join us. But wonderful having a chat to Emil there. The mood boards that you can access, there's one on casting, one on locations. There's the vehicles thing as well, which is just amazing. The vehicles they have in Bulgaria and the art department as well. And then final slide here is this is on. So we're just coming up to 2 o'clock here in the UK. So nearly done our 1 hour, our 60 minutes. But this coming Wednesday, we're doing another session, another webinar. It's with Debbie Pierce, who is MCA's music consultant. And we'll also be joined by a chap called Simon Elms from Eclectic Music, who will be answering some of your questions around things like briefing, how to do best practice music briefing, and some of the issues that keep cropping up time and time again when he works with ad agencies. So on Wednesday, we'll be talking and having Debbie Pierce sharing with you some of her incredible insight. Now, Debbie, if you haven't spoken or met her, incredibly experienced. She used to work in publishing at Universal with Polygram. She used to look after great acts and artists like the Beatles, Bon Jovi, Elton John, and many others. So knows the music industry inside out, okay? And there is no one better than Debbie in knowing how to source music well. And it's a lot about relationships, of course, because we're in a creative industry and you cannot buy music in a procurement-like fashion. It's just not done that way. So how you know, and Debbie's been there right at the very, very top. And she's done a huge number of clearances on existing licensed tracks for us over the last 2 years. So I'm very excited about our session on Wednesday. So should you guys. Hope you can join us. And I'll see you 1 o'clock UK time on Wednesday. Thank you very much. Exactly 1 hour up.